And as usual, we are actually recording. I did remember this time. Everybody should be proud of me. I should get thumbs up at this point. I saw Michael too. Yeah, didn't. I was too busy talking to Vanessa to actually pay attention to anybody else, right? Um, so we are week 3. This is human resources. Um, make sure I didn't miss anything here. I want to look at the chapter 8 concept quiz. I ran through about 21 questions out of 45 already. And like I did state earlier, um, uh, you may feel that my misogyny and racism knows no bounds by the end of this chapter. So, but it's really not a thing. It's just I feel like the information you were getting here is a little bit behind. Actually, um, I know COVID kind of changed the way the workforce is kind of made up. And then there's been new information come out since then on uh, women in the workplace, diversity, things of that nature that I just don't think these books have been updated a little bit. And I try to keep updated myself. So no real racism or misogyny or any of that other nastiness, because that's just, that's bad news. That never works out for anybody, um, especially the racist and the misogynist. They just think they win. Okay, so if we want to go here, this is the chapter 8 concept quiz. Let's just kind of run through these answers. There's a lot of them, and I want everybody to kind of get a feel for that chapter anyway, because this one is kind of important when you're dealing with diversity in the workplace. So we start out, which of the following factors accounts for the increased diversity in organizations? And that would be globalization. That's a pretty easy one to understand. Uh,
Are you starting on number 1 with
Yep.
chapter 8, number 1?
Chapter 8, number 1.
Okay, thank you.
Let's look here. Treating people within an organization fairly and taking actions that do not discriminate against people in protected classes on the basis of some illegal criterion is called equal employment opportunity. Excuse me. Have you ever seen the poster? Every business is supposed to have one up. You get them from you get them for free, and it tells you about EEOC. Um, there are some limits to that. Some of the limits are disabilities. If a person has disability, they still have to be able to perform that job within some reasonable accommodations. So you can't really get in trouble for not hiring a paraplegic guy to unload trucks, because there's really no reasonable accommodation for something like that. Now, if they can perform another job in the company with, because you have to have, um, access to bathrooms, ramps, people to be able to get in and out of the doors, um, things of that nature. So those are what they consider reasonable accommodations. Sometimes, like I said, unreasonable accommodations would be, having to spend hundreds of thousands or $1 million on equipment to accommodate someone, with a disability. Um, someone, and that falls into this weird category of, let's say, a guy who works in a warehouse hurts his back. You can't fire him for hurting his back, you know. Um, so you have to be able to make reasonable accommodations. But at some point, if they can no longer do that job, you try to move them to a job they can handle. Maybe a supervisory role or something like that. Because part of the thing is, many people take jobs that are inherently dangerous. And even though we have OSHA out there that's trying to look out for us the best they can, with regulations and oversight, um, some jobs are just still inherently dangerous. A lot of them on the pipeline. A lot of guys work outside. Um, I looked it up the other day, and I will look it up again. Oh, you know what? Here's why you guys don't know, because how about I do this thing here? I bet that helps. So you guys can see what I'm looking at. You guys have to remind me. I always forget something. But there's some things you just can't legislate for. People, you can't legislate that a guy who's in the lawn care business drinks enough water. You know what I mean? I mean, you can tell them, you can suggest, but or guys that work out in the desert. I remember when we were working on the pipeline out in Odessa during the summer, it was 118 degrees. At some point, oh yeah, Hannah made that face. Yeah, it was pretty rough. Okay, what am I looking at for here? What is most, and you're going to find this most dangerous jobs ranked a little I think I looked it up on my phone the other day. We'll look here. Some of them will make sense, some of them won't, or because a lot of the ones you would assume that are super dangerous, because we hear about like police officers that they have a dangerous job. They're not even in the top 10. So it's going to be a little, it's going to, some of it's intuitive, some of it's not. Logging workers, I think we can agree that would be a pretty dangerous job. Aircraft pilots and flight engineers, derrick operators in oil and gas and mining. I believe that. Roofers. That would be roofers, garbage collectors, iron workers, all those make sense. Delivery drivers, farmers, firefighting supervisors, power linemen, agricultural workers, crossing guards is number 12. Crane operators, construction helpers. I'd almost think that'd be higher. I've seen a lot of construction helpers get hurt in my day. Landscaping, highway maintenance. So there are a lot of heavy vehicle mechanics. You see that police officers is number 22 on the list. And like I said, not that I'm going to say police officers don't have a dangerous job. I'm just saying they're nowhere near the top. And the reason is, I mean, I know when we were on the pipeline, a lot of those guys, especially the older guys that were maybe in their 40s or older, there was a large percentage of them that were missing digits, and lots of them, but with at least one half a finger gone. It's just incredible, and they'll tell us stories of how they lost it. So dangerous jobs, gotta be careful on that. And I don't know how I got off on that, because I'm squirrel. Which of the following is the difference between diversity management and equal employment opportunity? Unlike equal employment opportunity, diversity management places a heavier emphasis on appreciating and reasonably accommodating the difference among people at work. And some of the reasonable accommodations may be for religious reasons. Some religions, like Islam, they pray multiple times a day. That's giving them time to do that isn't a reasonable accommodation. Certain holidays, Jewish the Jewish religion has a whole lot of holidays that Christian religions don't have. So and then if you're an Orthodox, like an Orthodox Jew, they don't do work on Saturday at all. They don't even answer the phone or drive. In fact, it's kind of funny to be an Orthodox Jew. One of the requirements is you move within walking distance of your of the mosque, because you're not allowed to drive on the Sabbath. So reasonable accommodations, things that make sense. In the years immediately after Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act was passed, many HR managers operated under the assumption they were required by law to treat everyone equally, as they should. According to the Americans with Disabilities Act, an organization cannot discriminate against a person with disability as long as, pardon me, the person can perform the essential functions of a job with or without reasonable accommodations. Okay. I got a cousin, he's wheelchair bound, but he's also an accountant. So they didn't really need to accommodate anything, just make sure you can get in and out of the building and move the desk chair out of the way. So that's, and so that keeps people productive, which I think is eminently fair. Which of the following statements is true of the age of workers in the United States? The average age of U.S. workers is gradually increasing. I think that's a little behind since COVID. I've noticed, and I don't know if there's research behind it or if I'm just, using anecdotal evidence, but that many of the older population after COVID have kind of washed their hands of the work of employment, said, I'm going to go and take this opportunity to retire or do a lot less. And so I believe that's one reason why we have a shortage of U.S. workers, because some of the older and experienced workers have decided, after it's all said and done, that it's just time to move on and leave it to the rest of us. Now, but this is what the book says. Like I said, I think it's gradually decreasing at this point. Now it's going to change again, because there's another stat I read the other day that said millennials are not having children at the same rate of previous generations. And so that they're not even, it's at some point we're going to have a decreasing population instead of an increasing population. And that's going to change the demographics of the workforce as well. So all this stuff is always in flux, and it doesn't take but a one or two catalysts to move things into a different direction, like COVID. Whatever we knew about the workforce and about hiring and the employment, a big percentage of that after we got through the pandemic seemed to have completely changed. So we're going to look to people, the younger people like Hannah and Jennifer here, to pick up our slack. No, the only one I don't know. I think Victoria is younger. I'm not sure about some of the others in here. I know Michael and I are ancient. Yeah, we're like old dirt fossils. Which of the following is a factor that contributes to the gradual increase of the average age of U.S. worker? They say declining birth rates among post-baby boomer generations. Okay, now we still have that, but we also have baby boomers going away. Many of the older folks just aren't working. They're just not. And you kind of can't blame them. Which of the following is a result of higher legal limits for mandatory retirement in the United States? They say more and more people are working beyond the age at which they might have stopped working a few years ago. A few years ago, that was true. Okay. Now, once again, we have the economy worldwide, but the United States, just to kind of keep it local, but the economy's changed. We have a huge increase in inflation, which guys like the younger ones I talked about before, you guys have never seen anything like this before. Some of us older guys, we lived through it. I remember as a kid getting in gas lines in the 70s to get fuel, and so it was and high inflation, interest rates through the roof. People were buying houses at double-digit interest rates, and so when your money will, but when the same amount of money will buy less, which is what inflation is, too much money chasing too little goods, then I think you may have an increase in people changing their mind again and so saying, well, maybe I do need to go back to work, because it's a lot harder, especially when you hit, because there are things you can live without and there are things you can't, and energy is one of them. So higher fuel costs, I noticed my electric bill is higher as well, and my gas bill has been higher. So people who are on a fixed income may at least seek part-time employment just to make sure they can survive. But once again, by the time they write these books, 10 things have already happened. It may have changed 10 times and came back to the way it is, or it may still be in flux. So we have to go by what the book says, but at the same time, economies and demographics and everything change fairly quickly at times. Which of the following statements best describe the glass ceiling? Okay, it is a barrier that keeps many females from advancing to top management positions in many organizations. This is where I'm gonna try not to step into it too much. Michael's like, shut it down, shut it down. It is true that most big companies are run by men. Okay, and most of the large amount of, we look at Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, those are all men, some of these richest men in the world. But we also have to remember that is a small subset of men. Okay, it's not all men. These guys were super efficient, super smart, super driven, and many times they leave other parts of their lives undone, or they don't pay attention to certain parts of their lives for that goal that they're reaching. And these are people that work 24/7. I remember being one of those guys who couldn't get through a family birthday party or a gathering or even dinner without taking 6 phone calls. So this is a small subset of the population. Not only is it a small subset of men, but it's a small subset of the population that are super driven and super focused and super efficient. And part of it is, I think, it is many people don't want to live that life. Okay. And I think it's more pronounced in women just because they, at some point, and there was some research that went out about female lawyers that super smart, as smart as any guy, super driven, work hard, but at some point they get in their 30s, and many of them choose family over work at that point. So because biology takes effect, and if you want to have children, for us men, even though it's unfair, we could have children until the day before we die. We could that doesn't stop for us, but there's a biological factor that women are pressing up against there, that you don't see any pregnant women in their 50s, and if you do, even in their 40s, it's highly dangerous for the child and the woman. So they, choices are made there. And so it's not a lack of intelligence, lack of drive. It's just a lack of, or it's just a difference in what they want out of their lives at a certain given time. And then many return after the children are old enough, they return back into the workforce, but then you have a huge gap in in your employment, and so you have to fight past that as well. Which of the following statements is true of female employees in the United States? Some male managers are elected to promote female managers. I don't think I've ever run into that personally. Okay. But I've spent a lot of time in both male and female dominated industries. In the energy sector, it was pretty much male dominated. In education, it's a lot of times female dominated. So, but I will say, when I was operation manager for an oil company, I loved to hire female salespeople. Females always made really good sales force. Really, really good. They were way more effective and successful than their male counterparts. So, if a woman came in and looking for a sales job, I looked at her really, really heavy because, you know, I I knew statistically, if she was right, she was going to, hey Pamela, you got your audio on again. That they were really uber successful, and that's one of those things that you want the right people in the right job, and you want to be super successful because that just helps the company out. Let's see. The glass ceiling exists in organizations because many talented women choose to leave their jobs in large firms to start their own businesses. That does happen a lot. Okay. Um, and they're not always the same type of businesses they come out of either. Um, so that's who among the following individuals is facing the problem of the glass ceiling? And we'll go with is it okay? Glass ceiling usually doesn't talk about men for the most part. So we can almost pretty much take the men out of the equation when they talk about glass ceiling, just because it's usually deals with women or uh, people with disabilities, and then on a lower level, some minorities. So Rick, who feels uncomfortable in his new workplace as he finds it difficult to appreciate and adjust to the new culture. Well, we know that's not the glass ceiling. That's on Rick, right? He needs to get comfortable and get to work. Sound like my old boss. Well, I'm gonna skip over to Ben, who is denied a job by several companies despite being qualified because of a physical disability that resulted from an accident. Now, that's one of those things that's, you know, uh, Tamara, who is not given a promotion as she is not technically qualified to manage the work and responsibilities that she would have to handle if promoted. Once again, if you're not qualified, you can't claim glass ceiling, right? Because the glass ceiling indicates that you are qualified, but there's, for some reason, like your gender, that they're saying no, you cannot have this job. And then we also have Liza, who turns down a promotion opportunity as she feels that taking up of additional responsibilities reduce the amount of time she spends with her kids. And like it or not, the research shows that's usually how it is. Usually how it is. Women in the workforce many times will, you know, choose family over job. Okay, and I'm not saying that's the wrong thing. One of the things are men are more likely to work dangerous jobs. They're more likely to work outside. They're more likely to move for a job. Uh, and these are just, you know, these are objective uh, facts that come out of research. Because they found if you go into like Nordic countries, Sweden, the Netherlands, they found that the more egalitarian a society is. Okay, let me back up. Two reasons why uh, that affects uh, women and men in the first in the workplace. Number one is biology. Number two is society. Pretty much the only two they can be. So if you remove all the societal blocks, okay, then the biological factors become more pronounced. And the research showed it, and people were flabbergasted like this because you get in, like I said, the Netherlands, where they've moved all the societal options and make everyone equal under the law. So they assumed they would have more women engineers and more male nurses, or vice, how it goes. And what the research actually found out was more women moved into nursing, teaching, more men moved into engineering and construction. And that comes with the common personality differences between men and women, which is to make it simply, men care more about things, women care more about people. And that's on average. That yes, you have the outliers on each end that don't really fit that mold, but if you go right in the middle of the bell curve, you're going to find That's pretty much how things happen. So because they also found that if you as you go through school, there's really no difference in intelligence between men and women. Uh, in the sciences and mathematics, everybody, the genders are running neck and neck. So it's not a matter of intelligence that they used to believe in the 50s, well, women can't do that job. It takes math. Well, no, we found out, excuse me, that women are just as smart, but for some reason their priorities are different than ours. And like I said, and when you remove the societal blockades from that, biology takes over and people move to their prospective spots. I went a long time on that. Apologies. Which of the following groups constitute a distinct ethnic group in the United States? When we talk about ethnic, it's going to be Hispanics, right? Christians aren't a ethnic group. Women aren't an ethnic group. Expatriates are not actually. Everybody know what an expatriate is? Expat? Someone who goes to another country to work or live. I might still remain an American citizen, but I might move to Brazil and get robbed and killed and kidnapped. And even the term Hispanic, that's a weird term as well, because they kind of lump everybody in who has Spanish origins or Latin America. So they kind of lamp Mexico, Argentina, Spain, Venezuela, and so and you'll say, and it's almost a self-identification, which is, do you consider yourself Hispanic? When you mark the boxes on the census, and I think that's part of it. But Hispanic, Latino, that covers a large group, and South America, Central and South America is a very, very large place with a lot of different countries. A lot of although a lot of the people may look the same, culturally, very, very, very different. Very different. So, um, and I guess my whole point is we gotta be real careful in pigeonholing someone based on, like, race, or an ethnic, because just because you look like someone doesn't mean culturally you're the same. And we can even do that in America. I had this argument with a friend of mine, and he grew up in Philly, Germantown. And I said, man, let's just be honest. I said, as a black guy that grew up in Philly, you have very little in common with a black guy that grew up in Okmulgee. I live in a place where that black guys wear cowboy boots, ride horses down through downtown, and wear cowboy hats. All over. I don't think you're going to see that too much in Philly or in Detroit or in Chicago. So like I said, just because you have similar looks doesn't mean culturally you're the same, because you're absolutely not. And you can't pigeonhole all people just because they look like something. Which of the following statements is true of the ethnic composition and non-professional occupations? Now, I pulled up an article so we can make the distinction between professional and non-professional, because the term non-professional doesn't sound very flattering, but it covers a lot of space. Okay, so a professional job is a career that requires a specific amount of advanced training and education. These jobs often require some level of post-secondary education. Doctors, teachers, lawyers, artists. I'm not sure how that fits in. Artists, authors. I don't know if I really agree with that. Maybe I do. Accountants, scientists. I don't know. Maybe there should be a third category of of that. And then non-professional, which, you know, they put in cashiers. I'm not sure if I agree with EMTs, salespeople, medical assistants. Well, hold on. We do medical assisting where we're at, electricians, but what they're looking at, a non-professional job is a career that an individual can start with little training or education. Often these are entry-level positions that offer on-the-job training and allow professionals to develop skills and advance their career. Firefighters are also in that. Okay. Police are often in that, because a lot of police departments and fire departments, you don't have to have college or even any technical training. You can go in right out of high school and they'll train you from scratch. And then you'll go to cleat training, or you'll go to firefighter school, the police academy, things of that nature. I don't think now in a lot of these non-professional jobs, I'd say welders, pipe fitters, things like that. They, you know, that sometimes if you're a good enough welder, you'll make almost as much as that daggum doctor. So non-professional doesn't mean not unsuccessful or anything else. Which of the following is a dimension of a disability that pertains to the question of whether a disability could have been avoided? Okay, so it's the origin of the disability, right? You know, were you born with it, or were you not quick enough to duck when the pipe swung around your head? Or an old sergeant major, I heard a speech a few years ago. His old sergeant major giving a speech at OSUIT. He had, I think he said 3 Purple Hearts. And he said all that meant is he wasn't very good at ducking. So, but so if you've been shot 3 times, that's I'd get a lot quicker. That's what I'd get good real quick. Which of the following is the more universal dimension of diversity in other dimensions? Religion. Okay, because there's a lot of religions out there. You just don't break them up between, you know, you look at the main ones: Christianity, Judaism, Islam, then you got Hindus and everything else. But there are several, you know, just saying you're a Christian can mean a lot of things in America. Are you Southern Baptist? Are you non-denominational? Are you a Methodist? Are you a Catholic? Are you, you know, a lot of times in Islam, are you Sunni? Are you Shiite? Are you, you know, and then are you a regular, you know, are you Orthodox Jew? You know, how seriously do you take it? And that, so there's a lot of different ways to do that. Sexual orientation, I know they say there's a lot of them because I looked at that on Facebook, but I'm not sure, you know, if, you know, I think you only go pretty much 3 ways. You know, I like one, the other, or both. So disability status and age. I think age is a big one too. Age is a big one too. Which of the following generally occurs as the composition of an organization's workforce gradually begins to mirror the composition of the surrounding labor market? That's called social change. Which eventually, I think, depending on the job, it's going to try to mirror the surrounding market, because it really doesn't have a choice. Okay. Eventually, you know, I mean, you can only hire so many men to do a job, or so many women, until you kind of tap out of available resources in that area. And you've got to, you know, go look in other places. Crescent Inc. in America, that doesn't look. An American cosmetics company decides to have African American models in its next advertising campaign instead of white females, who are commonly used in its competitor's advertisement. Through this advertising campaign, this weird sounding company would facilitate social change. Okay. Makeup's a weird one. Cosmetics are a weird one. I think that's one of the ones that's had a hard time catching up to the diversity in the population at large. Because we kind of say that about Band-Aids. When you buy flesh-colored Band-Aids, they're all tan. No, none of them are black. I haven't seen any black Band-Aids. They're either tan. If you say flesh color, it's always tan. And I'm like, well, that's not really right. You can be like my daughter, who's almost paper white, or you can, be like a guy from Nigeria, and there's a lot of different shades in between. So I think that's the same thing with makeup. It's hard to cover all that. There's a lot of diversity just in the color of skin. In the context of the competitive advantage of diversity, which of the following arguments suggest that organizations can manage diversity effectively will become, I think I'm reading that weird. The context of the competitive advantage of diversity, which of the following arguments suggests that the organizations that manage diversity effectively will become known among women and minorities as a good place to work? And that's the resource acquisition argument. Now, let's not mistake diversity of gender or ethnicity or anything with diversity of talent. Okay. And I think that's one of the mistakes made many times is, I think it was Justin Trudeau in Canada. He decided, he said, I want to make 50% of my cabinet female. Well, that's fine, but then you're cutting down on the talent pool at some point. You have to pull the talent from where it's available, and also who's interested. I know if it's not a male female thing, but I know I'm much more interested in politics than my wife. So I'd be much more liable to take a job in politics than my wife, who would probably run the other way as quickly as possible. And that's as far as I got, and we're going to just keep moving along. We've got a few more minutes. Anybody have any questions, concerns, like to yell at me at this point? No? Darn. Litops and apparel manufacturing United States wants to achieve competitive advantage by expanding its business to Russia, India, and China. The company hires people from each of these countries to better understand how to design and make clothes for the people, identifying with the culture of these countries. Which of the following arguments of how diversity contributes to competitiveness would likely support Litop's decision to hire a diverse workforce? And that'd be the marketing argument. Now, that goes without saying. I'm not going to hire a guy from Russia to tell me how to sell clothes in Northeast Texas. Okay. You want to grab, and once again, you want to, if you're going to market to a certain geographic area, you want to have people from that area, because once again, people in Oklahoma aren't the same as people in Chicago, and not the same as people in Washington State or even Florida. And everybody, so when you're starting to market to a specific area, you need to grab talent or somebody at least knowledgeable in what people want there. Okay. Because you're not going to sell many winter jackets in Florida, and you're not going to sell a whole lot of Speedos in North Dakota. So, and I spent some time in North Dakota, and even in the summer, all 6 weeks of it, went to the lake. That water was still cold. Swimming was not part of my agenda after I hopped in that water one good time. And so I left my Speedo at home. Don't try to imagine that. Nobody needs to. Stop. That'll cause you much pain later on, and it'll damage you mentally. In the context of the contributions of diversity to the competitiveness of an organization, the edge of having multiple perspectives and ways of doing things is the focus on creativity, part of the resource acquisition, part of the marketing argument, or part of or the focus of the cost argument. And you guys are gonna have to help me through these because this is actually where I need to start out. We'll pull up my chat here. Oh, I'm looking here. We got, yeah, look, we got people 35, 57, and neither one of you look over 25. And because I've been married a long time and I know exactly what to say. So anybody have any idea on this question here? In the context of diversity to the competitive organization, I think it's creativity. Okay. Yep, I like it. So, night, Vanessa. Because once again, we don't want to make the mistake that diversity is just about gender or skin color or sexual orientation. It's far deeper. It's you're pulling from experiences and talents that other people may have. Okay. So just because you share a physical similarity to somebody else doesn't mean you have the same experiences, knowledge, education. Okay. So and that's the diversity you want to look at. You know, and that's what helps people people become more creative. And and creative people are people high in creativity are a whole different animal as well. Tim, a high-performing engineer at a banking software, feels that he was laid off by his employer because the company wanted to replace him with a differently abled engineer. He is therefore resentful towards the organization. In this scenario, which the following became a major source conflict? Anybody? B, diversity. Who said A? Hannah said A. There's an argument to be made for that, but I think in this at this they're kind of bludgeoning you with the answer. They're not looking for any. They're not looking for you to fine tune it. Uh, so don't overthink it too much. Oh, it's a puppy. Oh, we just had a stray cat come over to our house and have kittens. So we got 4 baby kittens in our house. We put them in a box, and actually, I don't know if they're still there. We put them in a box on the front porch where she could still get to them. So she might have toted them off by now. So if anybody wanted any kittens before long, I was going to try to get rid of some. Which of the following happens when a firm becomes truly diverse? Many identifiable minority groups appear within its workforce. Its workforce adopts an ethnocentric attitude. It suffers massive trade penalties, or conflicts and subgroups dynamics in its workforce disappear. I'm going to go with A or B. A, B. Oh, no, that's from the last question. I'm thinking A. Oh, I was wrong. Help me out here. We'll just run through them here, see, since I have no idea. Okay. It's conflicts and subgroup dynamics in its workforce disappear. Okay, we'll go with that. I know, right, Kelly? I just can't seem to get them right. Which is a following statement is true of a truly, say it 5 times fast, diverse organization. Minority groups become more prominent in the organization. Positive gains and problems increase at the same rate for the organization. Employees of the organization adopt an ethnocentric attitude, or employees view themselves as members of the same organization. Jerry says B. Oh, I got a B and a D. And another D. All right, well, I'm gonna try B because that was the first one I saw. Oh, I think we're right. Boys view themselves as members of the same organization. And if you notice, people in general like to group themselves up in tribes, and we just find reasons to do it. You know, as a guy who loves his football and his basketball, you know, as I got older, I always thought it was a little weird that, you know, okay. First off, I know Michael's gonna laugh at me here. I'm a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. and it's sometimes it's really hard to be a Cowboys fan. A lot of times it's hard to be a Cowboys fan, but it's because I grew up outside of Dallas, and so automatically my team is better than yours because I grew up in this place that's different from yours. You know, we do it with college sports. You know, I'm an Oklahoma State fan because, of course, I'm an Oklahoma State graduate. You know, so we have a tendency to, ooh, Michael, I actually have two favorite teams. It's the Cowboys and whoever is playing Kansas City that week. Oh, all my in-laws are huge Kansas City fans. Why? Because they grew up in that area. You know, if we were doing it strictly on talent and who's the best team, you know, it would change it, you know, every time we turned around. How much time we got? Got a few minutes. Try to get through this. Whew. I'm running my mouth. Takes such a long time. In the context of the actions that individuals can take, excuse me, to deal with diversity, the ability to understand the perspective of others is called empathy. That is right. Now, there are 5 different personality traits that they, you know, base people off: openness, I think aggressiveness. I'm trying to remember all 5 of them. And uh, the more creative a person is, a lot of times the more empathetic they are. Okay. So you have all these sub personality traits, and sometimes the personality traits are defined from masculine to feminine. Okay. Or feminine to masculine. You know, women tend to be more higher in openness and empathy, and you know, than men. And that's just psychological research has gone over all over the last, you know, 100 years or so. And so and we can see that kind of work itself out. If you want to see a group of people that are completely not empathetic, get about 10 guys sitting around a TV watching a ball game. Okay. The least empathetic group you will ever find in your life. Care about your feelings or even care about what you're feeling? Now, understand what you're feeling? No. Nope. Trash talk you? Absolutely. Managing diversity in an organization starts with the training methods that organization adopts to enhance the skill set of its employees, individual goals of its employees, policies that the organization adopts because they are directly or indirectly affect how people are treated, and goals that the organization has set for itself. I got a B from Sherry. Okay. Nope. I'm going to say it is C. Actually, let's go with D because I actually have to read the questions. Okay. Hey, I was wrong. So I'll not second guess myself again. Okay. Policies that the organization adopt because they're directly or indirectly affect how people are treated. Okay. I would almost say that starts with the goals of an organization. Okay. Because like I said, depending on what your organization has in mind is going to depend on, sometimes your hiring base. Once again, worked many years out in the pipeline. Very few females on the pipeline. Very few. And and that's not because there's a big discrimination. It's because I think at some point women are much smarter than men, and nobody wants to work in 118-degree weather wearing long sleeve fire resistant shirts, a great big helmet to cover your face, and an electric spark burning you up at the same time. Yeah, that's uh, only a dumb man would do that voluntarily, right? Say that's what I want to do with the rest of my life. A firm is less likely to be considered truly diverse when less likely to be considered diverse if it follows the law of the letter and engages in passive discrimination. There are no identifiable minority groups within its workforce. There is no subgroup dynamics that conflicts within its workforce, or it encourages cultural relativism in its work environment. Could be a couple. Anybody have any idea on that one? Michael saying A. Let's see, Michael is right. Well, it follows the letter of the law and engages in passive discrimination. And that is not to say that discrimination is not real. It is very real. It is very real. And it cuts both ways. But you run across it and it's sometimes very ugly, and you just need to any place I felt like I wasn't welcome or an integral part, I would find myself out of. And I would hope that some place that does discriminate passively or actively would not last very long, because I don't think they deserve to. In the context of organizational practice to help manage diversity, which of the following can be structured in organizations to accommodate individual situations? Anybody? Michael says B, benefit packages. Michael's on a roll, man. Not you, Kelly. We're publicly shaming you. No, I'm just teasing. So what did D say? D said ethnocentrism. I think, benefit packages. I think we have a good one there at CCC. I think Hannah can say, Hannah might be able to. She doesn't quite have the same benefit package I do, because her job is a little different. She gets to be kind of locked into that desk area where I have a lot more flexible schedule. So, and being able to give those benefits to the employees that I was going to use the word deserve, but that's not correct. That the job itself can handle that. I know my son-in-law. I don't think he's been back to his office since COVID. He's worked from home ever since, because his job is one that can be done from home. Some people like Hannah here, you can't man a reception desk from home. Our security guy, Ed, can't be security guy for CCC from home. You just can't work from home doing that. So being able to tailor the benefit package for the different jobs, I think does work out for a lot of people. Which of the following statement is true of diversity training? It helps people gain insights into how their own behavior affects and are interpreted by others. It's legally mandated in organizations that at least have 100 employees on the payroll. It promotes ethnocentrism in the work environment. It focuses solely on behavioral training. I think Michael's on a roll again. Because that's really, you know, oh, we should be done here in a minute. We'll do one more and I'll give my last little spiel of, in the end, EEOC, diversity, glass ceilings, it all falls to, can a company be profitable? You know, and so they do these things and it's supposed to help a company run more effectively and make things more fair. Okay. So, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that in Western society. I don't think it's anywhere near perfect, but I think Michael's been around the world. I've spent some time in a few other countries, and you appreciate the good old US of A really quickly when you go to some of these other places. So the ultimate test of organization's commitment to manage diversity is culture. All right, guys, I'm sorry. I ran it right up to the wire. I appreciate everybody for showing up. We got 31 out of 45 done. Anybody need to stay? Have any questions or concerns? I do want to talk to Victoria before you leave, if you don't mind. But does anybody else need to talk to me for any reason? Everybody good? All right. Hannah G say good night. Laters. All right, Michael, have a good one. More people I can see. You actually have the cameras on. I'll see you next week. Okay. Pamela's leaving us. So Sherry, Mindy, Victoria, and Jennifer. And I'm going to stop recording now.